Hey, what's going on? It's Joey from the Hitting Performance Lab. All right, Mr. Rhino. All right, so here we go. Much better. I thought about whether we should focus on your before and after your swing a month ago with this one, but I'm just going to have to send you with that it looks much better than the other one. Much better. We're about halfway there with where our bat and our arms need to be in position wise, and I wanted to bring Anthony up again. Like I told you last meeting, that Anthony's launch position is really good, although there are some things that we're cleaning up in his impact position. But his launch position, he launches from a very strong position, very good, strong position. So I have both your swings synced up. Obviously, we're looking at your swing here on the right. Now, I want you to take a look. You guys look almost identical. Now, here's something to play around with. Now, Anthony, as you can see, you've already started with your bat wrapped back here. Sometimes that can feel a little uncomfortable behind your head and may cause bat wrapping, and also feel like you're not really getting much momentum with the bat, getting any kind of movement back there. It kind of feels like stale weight. So what you see with Anthony is he starts it with it almost behind his head, where it's not like the back of his head, not the side of his head, where yours is kind of side. You're almost flirting around with maybe being able to see this barrel with the corner of your eye, which means we're wrapping a little bit. So this might explain why we are launching a little too soon on this swing. So as you'll see, as Anthony gets going, is that he'll kind of place that bat almost where yours is. Okay, something to just play around with. A lot of this is going to be done in the mirror. You're just going to have to work on it in the mirror a little bit. They're very fine details, but they make a huge difference in your swing, and I know they will. And we're going to get to the issue at hand, or the challenge that we're having right now. But as you can see, once Anthony gets to his launch position, you guys look almost identical. Okay, now as you can see, as you start approaching heel strike, we talked about the timing signal that gets sent to your pelvis once your heel hits the ground, which is about right there. Now, if you watch your bat, it'll start to drift away. Watch your bat on the right, it'll start to drift away. And then if you look at Anthony's, look how nice and snug it is still to his head. It hasn't jumped off his head yet. So if we look at how many frames you start to open up, which is 1, 2, 3 before Anthony does, 4, 5, 6. So about 6 frames still before Anthony's barrel starts to launch off his head. Now as you can see, this has a lot to do with your hip positioning. With Anthony's hips already starting to open, and we're getting that delay, that springy action with Anthony's swing with his shoulders, or his shoulders. Remember, we talked about when we walk, the reason why we walk with our opposite leg, opposite arm coming forward is because the pelvis is rotating one way and the shoulders are counter-rotating the opposite way. Now, with our swing still, it's still almost like we're walking with the same arm, same leg coming forward. We have to allow that timing signal, or delay that upper half a little bit, and we're just being a little bit too much upper half happy. And as you can see, with the major point I want you to key in on is the distance between your elbows. Now, if you can see Anthony's elbows, okay, you can see how they kind of move. The distance moves with his movement. It's not that this elbow moves closer to this elbow. It's actually that they move almost the same distance the whole time. Like a steel bar is between the biceps, keeping the biceps the same length apart, and he's just moving his body in a position there with the upper half. Now with you, if you look at it, you have your back elbow is gaining ground on your front elbow, and look at how close we are together here with our elbows compared to Anthony. Okay, so elbows here, and then Anthony's elbow here, and then front elbow there. So he's almost double the distance, almost double the distance of where you're at with your elbows. You're just really you're really getting in tight with your arms, and as you can see, the barrel, where the barrel's at with Anthony, is here, still close to his head, while yours is still kind of leaking or bleeding out. It's much better than it was before, but what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to really delay, and think about it like your elbow and your barrel are one piece. If we back Anthony up, we look at Anthony on the right, on the left, okay, like your back elbow and barrel are one piece and they move together. Okay, where yours is you're kind of moving the elbow forward and then the barrel behind. You want to keep that back arm intact. And might be because maybe we're pulling, well, you're definitely pushing your back elbow and pulling with your front arm a little bit too much. You're using a lot of upper body. Here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to work on getting into your landing position, your fight position. So getting here, looking good, and then practice swinging from there. Alright, making sure we're keeping this barrel here, and that when you go to swing, notice Anthony, what Anthony's doing. It's like that barrel's sliding down the back of his head as it comes around. Kind of slides down the back of his head where yours is falling away from your head. You see that? How Anthony's sliding that barrel down his head. See that? And I think initially what we need to do, since we got Anthony in this particular one, we got a down angle with the shoulders. I don't think we have a down enough angle with our shoulders here. So I think what's happening is our torso and our spine aren't being engaged like we should. So what I want you to work on is getting to that landing position, that fight position, with a nice down shoulder angle. Really exaggerate it this week. So I want that nice down angle there, and then swing from there, seeing if we can slide the barrel down the back of your head. And it's going to take you to slow things down initially, but once you start to feel comfortable with it, then start to speed it up to more game speed. But don't be concerned with, when you're hitting off the tee or whatnot, don't be concerned too much with what the ball's doing per se, but what the feeling feels like. We really got to crunch this front shoulder down towards this front hip, because I don't think we're getting enough of lateral flexion with our spine, which is not allowing our hips to get into rotation. Because if you can see now, last point here, so that's what I want you to work on, is work on that down shoulder angle better. Just over exaggerate it, and give yourself a little bit more elbow room here with this back one as you go into your swing. It's almost like you're, don't get tight, but just like you're sticking it out there, pointing it behind you, kind of like Anthony is, and just work on sliding that barrel. But what's happening at impact is, look at the difference in your hip rotation here. So axial rotation with the hips, you see Anthony is nice and square, whereas you're still kind of trying to open up, and it's making for those shoulders are all swinging at the same speed. So work on the lateral flexion with the spine, exaggerate it, and we'll see what happens this next time I see you. But if you got any questions, let me know. Alright, brother, work hard.